The fear of flying has two different causes. I did a previous video covering what they are and how to tell them apart. And if you want to watch that first, I'll put a link to that. This video is for those with fear of the plane, well, not flying, so crashing. Now, if we have a look at flights that are flying around the world right now, we can see that they're all just happily flying along, taking off, cruising and landing. And you can watch an app like this, like a hawk, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, and that's all you'll see. Planes safely flying around the world, thousands and thousands of them. So why does our brain worry that anything else would happen when we're on a flight? Well, it comes down to what part of the brain is making us anxious. See, this is actually the amygdala in the midbrain, and it learns only from experience, not logical thought. And it can't tell the difference between real life, imagination, and movies and TV series. So when you were just having fun watching stuff over the years, your poor amygdala has been terrified, thinking you're experiencing all these dangerous events, including, I'm sure, a fair amount of planes crashing and exploding. Here's some notable examples you may have seen. These inform our midbrain's idea of what you can expect when flying in a plane and what it supposedly looks like when it goes wrong. Not helpful that it's sensationalized and, in a lot of cases, just plain unrealistic or factually incorrect. So let's start to correct some of that with some data-based brain food. Let's start with how flight works. Planes can take off and lift up into the sky because of the shape of the wings. They create lift, which makes the plane rise up into the air when air is pushed over and under the wings from forward thrust. The shape of the wings is something like this, which increases the speed of the air over the top of the wings. This creates a zone of low pressure which pulls the plane upwards. Now, this occurs even if all the engines were to stop working, as there will still be air flowing over the wings. That means that the plane can glide down to the nearest airport or make an emergency landing, and we'll get to the statistics on all of that in a moment. But first, something so many of you will hate: turbulence. Your drink sloshes, your stomach lurches downwards, it feels like it's something gone wrong with the plane, or it's just about to plummet out of the sky. So is it? No. Turbulence is caused by waves in the air, or differences in airspeed as you move out of one air current and into another. You've actually seen turbulence before. If you've seen smoke waft upward and then be interrupted and swirl about, that's you witnessing turbulence. It most often occurs in three situations: around mountains, jet streams, and storms, though it can happen unexpectedly too. Air is actually a fluid. It's just less dense than fluids like water. When you're going at the speeds that planes do, the air acts a lot more like water. It feels thicker, more viscous. Sometimes I find it helpful to imagine that I'm in a submarine under the water rather than up in the air. Science. When winds hit mountains, it causes waves, just like water passing over rocks. These waves can bump into each other, breaking up into many tumultuous currents. And when your plane goes through that, you bump around a bit. With the Gulf Streams, which are narrow, meandering bands of swift winds located near the poles, you're hopping out of one current and into another, generally slower one. This causes the plane to drop a little. Again, just picture it as a submarine. It's just moving about in a thick substance that causes resistance, so you're only going to move so far. Being jutted about by the waves and currents like this does cause some stress to the aircraft, but like boats, they're built to handle it. In the last 60 years, there's been no recorded crashes from turbulence. Planes are no more likely to fall from the sky during heavy turbulence than in smooth conditions. The only injuries have been from people being jostled by the turbulence when walking or standing in the plane when it happens. And if you see the wings flex in turbulence and freak out that they're about to break, it's a good thing. They're designed to do that. The wing's not going anywhere. Actually, let's take the time now to have a look at some airplane and flying stats. So the chance of something going wrong on a commercial flight, you might have seen the occasional two-seater incident in the news, still rare, but not what most of you are going to be flying on. Flying is safer than any other transport you can do, especially mundane everyday ones like driving, walking, and scootering. And we're talking a lot safer. On average, a person would need to travel every day for 16,581 years to get into a fatal airline accident. That's 16 millennia plus almost 6 centuries. If you were aiming to die, this would be a terrible way to do it. If you were to die while flying, it would most likely be from choking on your food or from a medical condition, neither of which are particularly common, just to be clear. If you're going to give up flying because it's not safe enough for you, then you need to give up getting out of your bed, because just walking around your house is probably more dangerous. In fact, the likelihood of dying from falling out of your bed while sleeping is higher than falling out of the sky in a plane. Now, if something were to go wrong with your plane, our amygdala can assume it'll plummet out of the sky. You're done. But realistically, we're probably looking at some sort of emergency landing if something's gone really wrong. So what are the stats around emergency landings, crashes, and your chance of survival? Wait, people survive those? Well, to have a chance of being in a plane accident, you'd have to catch a flight every day for the next 8 centuries or so. And most of these accidents are from takeoff or landing, where the plane hits a wall or an animal or skids along the runway. How likely are you to walk away from something like that, or even an accident in the air? If you're in 100 plane accidents, you walk away from 97 of those. Probably weren't expecting that. Now, knowing this will go a little way towards helping you, if it's news to you and you've never heard it before. But how do you get your amygdala to stop freaking out when there's turbulence? Well, it only learns from experience. It needs to experience a bunch of flights with no safety behaviors like checking on the wing for loose screws and see that they're safe. And some good news for you. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between being there and watching it, remember? So we can kick you off on reducing your fear with some videos. So subscribe and stay tuned. I'm going to cover the full suite of virtual exposure you can do from YouTube. Words, images, soundscapes, and videos, even VR. You'll get to virtually experience taking off, cruising, turbulence, and landing, so you can give your amygdala the experience it needs to feel safe when flying. Like I said, subscribe and stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.